this week. Casey, you've come in today with a, how do we describe it?
It's a review.
Yeah. All right. Casey's got a product review. Hi, Case.
Okay, so because this isn't an OSINT tip because it's not open source, so anything behind a paywall is not considered open source. So if you have to pay for information, like when you pay that little $17 fee for ASIC, that's not open source intelligence. That's behind a paywall. So I just thought I might make that distinction there. And this week, I've had so much fun with this. I have had a trial for Detective Desk. So I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it, and probably some of you have used it. And I know that I see a lot in our private investigator forums is some people say, oh, should I use Casper or Detective Desk? This isn't I prefer Detective Desk or anything like that. I find them quite different, both very valuable, but this is just talking about my week with Detective Desk so far. So with the Detective Desk, I really enjoy their user interface. I find it really easy to use. I love how when you actually get in there, it says how many records that they've added that day. So this morning when I jumped in, they had added already 1,483 records to their database. I love seeing the live updates, love seeing that they're constantly working towards making their platform better. Because if you've ever applied for a trial or asked for pricing, these things aren't necessarily cheap, but they're worth it if you need them. So with Detective Desk, you can get access to data that you would probably usually have to pay for yourself or that you don't have access to at all. So they buy all like the big marketing databases and things like that, and they plug it in there. And for example, if I wanted to do like a title search, that would usually just cost me $100 on its own. Whereas in Detective Desk, you've got that, and then you've got other things that you would usually have to pay for individually on top of that. So it kind of saves you money there. That's if the information is there at the time. One of my favorite features that I found this week with some of my desktop investigations was this, and the little blue dot there is my subject, and around it is information on the neighbors. So as you know, that you can't always make direct contact with your subject. It's usually good to have that 6 degrees of separation so you can call a neighbor and find out if you're trying to verify an address or see if someone still lives there. You can always call a neighbor as opposed to directly calling that person. So if I clicked on any one of those red dots, it will bring up who lives there, what their mobile number is, or any information that Detective Desk has on them. And I find that really, really useful. The other useful thing I enjoy is with Detective Desk, you can just type in a date of birth and it'll bring up everybody from that date. I didn't realize that so many people were born on the 3rd of February. That's my birthday. So there is lots of them. Even I narrowed it down to a suburb on the Gold Coast, and there is lots of us who were born on that date. So I find that really interesting. You can also search age range. So say you a guy hits your car in a shopping center and he comes up to you and says, oh, I'm so sorry. Here's my mobile number. He's given you a fake number. You can see that he's maybe a tradie and that he looks between maybe 23 to 28. And you can put that age range in there with a postcode and it'll bring up a bunch of stuff. And it's really fantastic for that. Also, what else? You can just type in an address. You can just type in a phone number. It's really good with those when you've just got one piece of information. And yeah, it's really powerful that way. The other thing I love is I love graphs and timelines, and it has both. So I've just done, and I did my maiden name, and because I didn't want to completely dox myself online, but this is some old information. I lived at 22 Coachway, Upper Coomera. That's right. That was my landline at the time, back when we still had landlines. And as you can see up the top, I was there between 10 and 11, like 2010, 2011. And before that, I was in Helensvale, and I just love those kind of timelines where you can see like that phone number overlaps. I took it from Helensvale to Coach Way. I'm in Upper Coomera. And then down below, you've got the graphs where it all kind of interconnects. And when you find someone that has quite a bit of information on them, and if they lived with someone, all of those other extra people will be there. There's usually a mobile number, more addresses, and obviously more up-to-date information. I just put that there because all of my new information, I don't really want that on the video. So you can practice that yourself. So yes, graphs and timelines are fantastic that way. So I love being able to visualize that kind of thing and how things are interconnected, and it does it all for you. So desktop investigations and skip tracing, it's all a big puzzle, and it's all really about bringing those pieces together and finding those extra pivot points and presenting good and verified information. At least that's what it's all about for me. And yeah, I just think that it's not, detective desk is not the be all and end all. You can't just strictly use that and rely on that purely and expect to get everything, but it is a fantastic resource and I've really enjoyed using it.
Yeah, the good thing about those databases is you can bring a street up, and if you've got a witness or you've got an address where you think someone is and they haven't got a contact detail, as you said before, Casey, you ring the neighbour and say, can you go and pop next door and tell them to ring this number or get them to call you? So
yeah,
really useful if the job is 2 hours away from where you live, and it's just a matter of locating a witness or something. If you drive out for 2 hours and then drive back for 2 hours and you don't get them, those databases are very good for that sort of thing.
It's fantastic. And it shows relatives. And it also, that's one of the other things, it shows all the occupants of an address. So if you're looking up John Smith, it shows that Mary Smith also lives there. So it might be a wife. And then it doesn't bring up young children, obviously. They don't have information on children under 18. But you might see a child that's just turned 18 and they've got their driver's license and they're now part of that address, or things like that. Adult children, other people that live there for extended family. It's really fantastic for that stuff.
And some people, when they have a claim in, if they've got a workers' comp claim or a public liability claim in, sometimes in the 3 years or so that it takes to sort of finalise the process of it, sometimes they drop off the radar and they don't update their electoral rolls and things like that. But if you can find out someone else who's an occupant in the house, yes, you can track them down and do that. Yeah, they're very good.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me today. I found an ex-wife because of detective just this week because I couldn't find my subject on the electoral roll. He hadn't have updated his details. I couldn't really find him anywhere, and an ex-wife told me everything. It was fantastic.
That's great, Casey. Thank you very much for that. That's absolutely excellent. You've got to try and play our game, Kahoot IT, people.